Welcome everyone. I see we have some of our regular attendees on board this afternoon. Great to see you again, and some new people. Welcome to you. In case you need to get in touch, here are my contact details. You'll find me on LinkedIn, so connect with me. I run webinars each month on a range of topics from governance and leadership through to management systems. This one is for leaders. You'll find the latest information on the michaelvossnz.com website. This is where I blog regularly. You're welcome to sign up to my blog there to receive information as soon as it's posted, including those on future webinars, and also training that we offer through pixis.co.nz. You can also opt into our Summit Club, designed especially for business leaders, those who are motivated to do whatever it takes to grow their businesses. If this is you, then I'd encourage you to sign up to the Summit Club. Please type into chat now if you can hear me and if you can see my screen. Just checking to make sure everything's right. I think we're okay. Okay, great. So I seem to be coming through loud and clear, so that's fine. Now to today's topic. The fire, the exciting ingredient that pulls the separate parts of the meal together. The sauce that would make the meal exciting for the chef to create and for us also to eat. If you want to create a 5-star experience like any proud master chef would plate up, that requires a plan and perfect execution. No top chef would plate up a meal without the sauce. Business is no different. It's the sauce that makes all the difference. All the essential components are there in place, but where's the sauce that pulls all the components together to make the business gel? Businesses develop plans and they get excited about the possibilities for the future. All that's needed is to execute those plans. Unfortunately, research shows us that 70% of businesses actually fail to execute their plans. The secret every fast-growing company knows about that no one talks about: execution. If you want to grow your business, then you need to join the 30% that do actually execute. The 70% that fail to grow, what they're suffering from is lack of growth. What that means is that the competition will see that you go out of business. And for many businesses that are in fast-moving industries, that can be quite soon. Many businesses are growing at the same rate as their competition, so they're just marking time. They've really plateaued. They've effectively stagnated. And yet you could be at the top of your chosen niche. This is for you if you're tired of chasing the latest idea, what's commonly known as fad surfing, because it actually doesn't work following what's most popular at the moment. If you're sick and tired of seeing that those latest ideas just don't work in your business, then you've come to the right place. Perhaps you want a proven process that actually works. You need to be able to measure the progress that you're actually making. How else can you justify the costs and the effort that's going in to make those changes? Maybe you're moving into a new market, or perhaps you're starting a whole new business. You need to get started now. If so, then you've come to the right place. If not, then I'm sorry, I'm going to waste a lot of your time. Just for signing up to the webinar, I've got a special offer for you, which I'll tell you about at the end. And many thanks to those of you who downloaded the Summit Readiness Grid and used it to determine where you currently are and sent me your results. The information you provided me has made it much easier for me to decide what I should cover during this very brief time we have available today. For those of you who didn't respond to the survey, I hope that I'm able to add value to you. I would encourage you to post issues that you're facing in your growing business during the session. Just type these into chat, and I'll get to look at these during the questions and answers, and I will stay on after the webinar itself on chat if you want to discuss this further. I used to work at PEC, where we had ISO 9001 certification. It was 1995, and we just won an export award. I was the management representative with responsibility for quality, but I really struggled to find how we could actually measure how effective our business was being run. And shortly after receiving the award, the Minister of Commerce, Roger Maxwell, wrote to us requesting, given our recent success, that we might want to take part in a new program that he'd designed to help lift the performance of New Zealand organisations. And I was intrigued. We were already certified to the recognised international standard for quality, and we just won an export award. So what else could there be? I knew that we had reached a plateau, and I was really looking for a new challenge. But not quite knowing what to expect, I said yes. So I joined the quality managers from other organisations to learn about business excellence. And we were trained as evaluators for the Business Development Quality Awards. 15 of us became immersed in one of the most intense learning experiences I've ever been involved in. Over the course of 3 days, under the expert guidance of Paul Steele, I was introduced to the criteria for performance excellence, what we commonly know as the criteria, or the Baldrige framework, or the Baldrige criteria. Paul studied under Dr. Deming and Aman Feigenbaum, two of the biggest names in quality. He's the longest serving US business excellence expert with over 30 years experience working with the criteria. Companies outperform the US Standard & Poor's Index by 440%. They grow twice as fast as companies like ours with ISO 9001 certification. I learnt that while we were great at PEC, we could choose to become excellent. I was humbled by what I now realised I didn't know about quality. And my life changed at that moment. I knew that I needed to learn about how to use excellence to build sustainable businesses. This for me was an aha moment. We were ISO 9001 certified to the recognised international standard for quality, and we just won an export award. But we didn't even do half of now what I now realise excellent companies do. In fact, our score was much worse, at barely 30%. For the next 3 years, I worked with other evaluators at the Ministry of Commerce. We studied a wide variety of organisations across New Zealand to determine what they were good at and where they needed to improve against the criteria. And we provided them with feedback reports. And they used those feedback reports to improve. The criteria of what perfection looks like, something that even the very best organisations in the world only score perhaps 75%. 100% is simply not possible. It's an ideal. I examined hundreds of organisations and site visited many of them. And many of the businesses that applied to the awards program, they did it each year, and they used the feedback reports that we provided them to raise their level of performance. And as a result, they experienced phenomenal growth. Since then, I've led teams examining applicants to the New Zealand Business Excellence Award. I've designed and run regional awards programs, and I've developed tools to enhance the learning experience. And I also speak and write on excellence. Most businesses find, as I did, that they don't know what they don't know. Like I did at PEC, despite winning awards, we only scored 30%. And once we understood where we were relative to perfection, we could actually do something about it. Then we really started to focus on building an excellent business. Until you see where you are, you won't know how much better you can be. And how do you know that you're currently working on the most important areas of your business right now? We certainly weren't at PEC. We rushed off looking for ideas that we could use. In the 80s, Peters and Waterman wrote a book called In Search of Excellence, We spent a lot of time trying to apply the ideas from that book into PEC. Books are a great source of ideas. To be honest, we applied very little that actually made a real difference to our business. And over the years, I've seen some really great books and papers that have inspired people, including myself, to actually make change. Some of these that have made a difference that I recall include Gary Hamel on core competence, Kaplan and Norton's balanced scorecard, and more recently, lean manufacturing, which is based on the tools used in Toyota's production system, and Six Sigma, which originated from Motorola's cell phone division. These ideas have introduced us to new approaches and tools that make a big difference to our organizations. And I've observed over the years that many companies try to apply these new ideas for a while before they discard them for something else. This is the fad surfing that I was referring to earlier. The most common reason I find these initiatives fail is because it's left to chance that these new ideas will fix the current problems in the business. It's so important to analyze the problems the business has before looking for a solution. Most often I find leaders are completely unaware of where the biggest barriers lie. Once the business has highlighted what area needs attention, many businesses get hung up on tools. They spend lots of time and money learning about the tools they need and how to apply them. They may have learned how to apply the tools, but most often fail to execute the changes in the area they've highlighted. So they still fail to grow. You have a choice. You can either leave it to chance or deliberately use a process that analyzes where the problem is first, prepare a plan, apply the right tool or tools for the job, and measure progress as you move to complete the change. You need a process that can be systematically applied to your business again and again. Today I'm going to take you through the 4-step process that I've been using for the last 20 years, and it's designed to maximize the growth of businesses. Now, it wasn't always in this state, so it has evolved over time. I'm also going to share with you an example of what one of my clients has achieved in just 12 weeks using this process. Before you take on any activity, whether it's heading off to climb Mount Everest or out for a run, you need to get ready first. It's no different when growing your business. Before you start the 4-step process, you need to get ready. To get ready, we use the Summit Readiness Grid to look at where your business is right now. Now, don't be fooled by the simplicity of the Summit Readiness Grid. It's based on the criteria framework that I talked about earlier and can quickly separate out roadblocks or barriers to growth and where you need to focus your attention. When you book this webinar, you will have received this Summit Readiness Grid. So hopefully you've had a chance to complete it for your business. It only takes a few minutes if you haven't already done so. Type into chat your highest and lowest scoring items. And if you have several on an equal score, then list all of them. While you're doing that, here is the completed Summit Readiness Grid for our case study company, Architects Marketing. They completed this in late January. They scored themselves just slightly less than 30%, where we were at PEC for our initial check. You can see they've scored particularly well for customers. Their strategy is pretty good, and their leadership and workforce are equal next. Their lowest scoring areas are measurement, analysis and knowledge management, operations, and results. It's these 3 lowest scoring areas that are the growth barriers for this business. It makes little difference improving, for example, strategy or customers, because it's the low scoring areas that are going to continue to hold this organization back. So to accelerate the growth of this business, Architects Marketing needs to remove these barriers. So that's what they've been working on since January. Type in chat yes if you conduct regular assessments against some excellence model or framework. Now that you know where you currently score, you're ready for our 4-step process. The Summit process is part of our Summit program where we help businesses to get to world-class levels of performance. This process uses powerful tools based on the criteria used in the same awards programs that I referred to earlier. And these tools are designed so small business can easily apply them and get results in weeks instead of years. So the first step is you've got ready by highlighting which areas you need to look at in more detail to find the barriers. The first step then is to assess the lowest scoring areas and highlight where those barriers are. So we do a deep dive into those areas. The second step is to plan what actions you need to take to remove those barriers. Third step is to take the action as planned. And the fourth step is to check and see what progress you've made. So this 4-step process will enable you to take your business to the summit, the Everest of your chosen niche. Type in chat if you've used awards programs to highlight the areas that you can improve, or what we call opportunities for improvement, or OFIs. Also type in whether you've taken any action to address those. I'll now do a deep dive into each of the Summit process steps. The first process step is to conduct a detailed assessment of each of the areas where you've scored the lowest that you highlighted from your Summit Readiness Grid. Most businesses, when they apply excellence, assess all the areas. I find this wasteful to start with when you've already highlighted which few major areas you need to look at. So this saves a lot of time and effort in initial assessments. Also, you'll end up with perhaps 30 or more areas to actually improve. And that's real progress. So that's why we only assess the lowest scoring areas first. What I've got here on the screen is our Basecamp assessment tool. It consists of 7 mind maps, each covering one of the color-coded columns on the Summit Readiness Grid. Each mind map contains details of what the world's highest performing organizations do. So when using the mind map, you're analyzing your business against the world's best, and you don't need to enter any awards program to find out where you need to improve. It only takes minutes to do, so it's ideal for businesses where time's really precious. During the assessment, you decide whether each requirement is to be highlighted in green or in red or orange in this particular case. So green means that it's okay. You're either happy with it as it is right now, or it's a strength. You highlight things in red or orange where it needs work. For our case study business, the lowest scoring areas we needed to assess are the grey measurement analysis and knowledge management, the light blue operations, and the red results. Here's the grey measurement area analysis for our case study business. You can see a lot of large area appears in orange around measure performance. So this is the single area that our case study decided to focus on, this measure performance. So they were happy to leave analyze and review performance, improve performance, manage knowledge, manage data information and information technology. While there's orange areas in there, they realize they can't do everything. You're better off to focus on a few things really well rather than make little progress against a great number. So now that you've decided what to focus on, you're ready for the next step. I wonder if you conduct regular assessments in your business. Do you assess your processes against a model like the criteria to target your improvement activities? Just type in chat now if you do, and what model or framework you use. I know there's quite a few people out there who are from the ISO community, and ISO 9004 is actually quite a good standard for providing an assessment framework which you can use. I'll be interested to know if anybody actually uses that. So on to step 2. That's about planning what to do. Most businesses already have a standard action plan that they use in their organization. If you do, then you should use it here. The action plan example I'm showing here is a typical one that I use with my clients that don't have a plan already existing. It contains the department that the action relates to, the measure and the target associated with the action, and what specific actions need to be taken. Even if you don't have separate departments in your business, I would recommend that you note where the particular actions you take, whether they relate to the sales function or production function or admin functions. Type in chat now if you have a standard system for preparing plans in your business. If we look now at our case study business, you'll recall they needed to deal with measuring performance. This came from assessing using the grey mind map. I introduced them to the Key Data and Information Types tool, and this tool enabled them to focus clearly on creating a set of balanced measures that would be applied right across the business. It enables them to link their key processes they had in their business to their strategic goals and how they were going to review performance. I've included here an example of one of the measures that they're using to track their progress. So for example, under Data and Information Types, they've said that turnover is one of these measures they want to have a look at. They've defined what this means. It's the total sales revenue in US dollars, but for the calendar year, in this case, this year. It relates to their sales process. They've set a particular goal for this of so many $1 million for the 2016 year. It relates to their Grow Business action plan. So they have an action plan called Grow the Business, and that's what it relates to. They've decided that it's not available and not appropriate to actually compare it with any other benchmarks. They're going to conduct reviews of performance of this measure during their quarterly partner meetings. And the way they're going to analyze this is they're going to compare what they're currently achieving against their goal, which is this number set here. So what they've been able to do is to define exactly what their key data and information is and how it's actually going to be used in the business. So they plan time to spend together deciding on the key measures for their business and also who is going to take responsibility for each measure. After preparing the action plan, it's now time to take action. To execute on the plan, you just need to assign responsibility to particular people to do these functions. So I've added this here. I showed you the plan before. It included these four columns here. Just add a fifth one here and assign responsibility. In this particular instance, every person has responsibility for taking action, and then it's a matter of just holding them to account. There's nothing better than having all members of your team take responsibility for one or more actions. And that way, you can all work together. During regular meetings, you can make sure that action's actually taken across all areas to ensure that the business does close the gaps on what needs to be done. You'll notice here I've got the last column, the comments column, which is empty. You use this to report to regular meetings on the progress you've made. So in this particular instance, Bill here would comment on how much progress he's made towards achieving this target, and so on. So what happens is that when you go along to the regular meetings, you can actually very quickly see whether people have made progress or whether they haven't. This tool is very simple, but often the most simple of tools actually work best. Type in chat now if your system for taking action works. Do you actually execute your plans? Are you like the 30% of businesses that do? Or are you in the same group as the 70% that don't achieve what they actually plan to do? Type yes or no now. So after you've taken action, then you're ready for step 4, which is to check what progress has been made. While you might think that significant change has been made because of the effort that's gone in, it's not until you actually check on the progress that you get some insight into how far you've actually shifted the organisation. For this, we go back to the Summit Readiness Grid and go back to determine the maturity of each of the 7 areas that need to be looked at and determine where you score them this time. Just remember when you do this that you start afresh and don't refer to your earlier work. Here's another case study company, TBL. They're a very successfully privately owned business. They're ISO 9000 certified. You'll notice that they scored 24%. Now that's typical for ISO 9000 certified companies. You can see where they currently score for each of the 7 parts of the business. And like architects marketing, they needed to focus on measurement analysis and knowledge management, the grey area. They also needed to focus on operations because these were the 2 lowest scoring items that they first looked at. Here's how they assess themselves just 3 months later. They increased their score from 24 to 32%. To achieve this 33% lift in performance, the owners focused attention on measures, as I said before, the grey measures, and operations. And you'll see those have actually improved. But you'll also notice that although they only focused on these 2 areas, leadership, strategy, and results also improved. And this is quite common for areas other than those that you specifically focus on. And remember, this was all achieved in just 3 months. In our case study business are just going through this step currently. I estimate that they've improved from just over 27 up to possibly 35. Maybe they've made 35, maybe a bit more. And we're going to see over the next coming days when they complete their check progress step. By way of comparison, this is above the average rate that I typically see businesses using this process. If our case study business continues to improve at the same rate, then they'll soon be scoring around 50%. When it will be time for them to switch to a different assessment tool designed to take their business beyond Basecamp to the Summit. So if they continue at the same rate, they'll be around 50%, probably around September, October, later on in the year. And at that point, then they'll need to be looking at a different tool. Excellent performing organizations have a sound process, like this proven 4-step Summit process, that they apply systematically to drive growth in their business. This is not something that high growth businesses do just once. They repeat this process continuously to achieve the gains and reach the top of their chosen niche. Our Basecamp program is a 12-month program where businesses repeat this Summit process 3 or maybe even 4 times, measuring their progress at each cycle. I hold leaders to account for executing their plans. Type in chat now if you systematically apply a process like this 4-step Summit process to drive improvement in your business. Here's what our case study company had to say about their experience after completing the first 3 steps of the summit process. This comment came out of a video that I received recently, and I'll send you a link to the full video and a follow-up email after this webinar so you can hear more about their experience so far. So just like a master chef who's had to execute to produce that perfect dish, complete with the right sauce to complement all the components, architects marketing have worked hard to get the various parts of their business to gel. They're delighted that this effort has been rewarded with an additional $500,000 in turnover over the past 3 months. Imagine what they'll be able to achieve over the next 9 months of their Basecamp program. Is now a good time to take your business to the next level. For attending this webinar today, you get a no obligation consultation with me to discuss your current business. You might not be sure if this is right for you at present. That's really the purpose of us having a conversation. There's no obligation to discuss your current situation with me. Architects Marketing weren't sure to begin with, but 3 months down the track, with increased confidence in their systems and the increased turnover, they know it really was the right decision for them. During this free fitness assessment session, I will determine if we can work together and help you to take your business to the next level. We will identify potential roadblocks in your business. I will be able to outline your next best steps, and I'll let you know if you will benefit from using the summit process to take your business to that next level. You can use this link to book your free fitness assessment session. I'll also put this link up on chat. This link will take you to my diary so that you can book a time that best suits you. So this webinar is all about taking action and executing your plan to grow your business. So you can join the 30% of businesses that are successful. I certainly don't want to see you in the 70%. Today I'm introducing a new program to get you on track. You get to hear about it first, and for booking this webinar, I'm offering it to you at a discounted price. In On the Track, you get to assess and plan. These are the first 2 steps of the 4-step process that I talked about. So during the fitness assessment, we will have identified the one area that would make a difference to your business, and you've got an opportunity to join On the Track. I'll send you a mind map for that area that you will use to assess your business. You can return that completed mind map to me so that I can prepare myself before the first of the 2 meetings. These meetings will be online sessions. During the first session, we'll assess and plan a strategy to address the findings that you've made. I will have studied your results and prepared tools and guidance that you need to lift the performance of your business. You'll work with these tools in your company before our next session. And the next session is really involving reviewing your plans and providing further guidance on what you need to do to keep the momentum up. You'll be able to contact me through phone and email for ongoing advice and guidance, and you can get started on the track today. This program's new, and because you booked this webinar, I'm offering it to you for the special price of 1,000 New Zealand dollars. On the Track is normally $2,000. This 50% discount is a special offer just for you. To receive this special discount, you will need to book your fitness assessment within the next 14 days. So we'll be able to have a conversation. I'll outline your next best steps. I may recommend On the Track if I think it's right for you, or I may well recommend something else. There's no cost or obligation to you, so you've really got nothing to lose. So act now, book your assessment session now. You can also join the Summit Club, which is our online community group for leaders who aspire to build world-class businesses. You can join this on the contact page at michaelvossnz.com. It's free and you will get early advice on future webinars, special offers and items of interest relating to leading high growth business. Now to the survey results. 40% of you answered that you seem to be lacking that fundamental ingredient to grow the business. What I guess I referred to as the sauce that makes the business gel. In this situation, I always recommend running the summit process. It will likely highlight what's lacking, and then you'll be able to do something about fixing it. The problem we've got is you can't actually, until you actually conduct an assessment, you won't actually know whether there isn't something that's shaken out that's actually preventing you from growing. Second area, growth always seems beyond our reach. 33% of you suffer from this problem. I often find that the components are all there, but there's just one or two barriers that are often preventing that growth. This is where the assess step of our 4-step process is good at locating these barriers. Third area, equal, second, scoring. Businesses stagnated. Sometimes it's difficult to see the progress that's being made. When your business is stagnated, it could be that you are actually growing. Remember I described earlier that businesses, if you're growing at the same rate as your competitors, you may well perceive that as the fact that you're stagnating, simply because the turnover figures are not really increasing in your favour. All you're managing to do is to mark time when you need to steal a march on your competitors. Architects Marketing was in a similar situation. Their leaders were surprised by the progress that they can make even in just 12 weeks. This is why we measure progress in the summit process. And this feedback is also important to keep the program going. Another area, latest areas just don't seem to work here. This is what we were doing at PEC. You need to find the barriers in your business before you apply those new ideas. There may be nothing wrong with the ideas themselves, so lean manufacturing may well add value to your business. But it may well be that you're not going to see any results until you remove the other barriers that are preventing the lean manufacturing or any of these other tools and techniques and great ideas in your business may well be blocked from actually having a real impact on your business simply because there are other barriers in place. Or, alternatively, it may well be that you just haven't waited long enough. That's why it's important to carry out that assess step of the summit process. It's what it's designed to do, is to just look holistically over your entire business and see, are there any issues around this particular area? Some of you invested a huge amount of time and money, and you're still waiting for the results. It could be, like the previous one, that you just haven't waited long enough. I've found an awful lot of companies need to fix the culture in their organization. And so they go and do a restructure and they go and institute all sorts of changes in their business. And they look at it after 3 or 6 months and say, well, it hasn't resulted in any decent outcomes, therefore we go and do something else. The problem with culture change is that, in my experience, it takes 18 months to 2 years before you really start to see the benefits of any investment in culture shift that you make in an organization. However, usually in this particular instance, if you've invested but you're still waiting for results, it's usually because there's a barrier, there's some barrier somewhere which you haven't found that's preventing you from getting the results that you actually need. So run an assessment, see if it highlights an area that you haven't thought of, and then run through the rest of the summit process to fix it. Okay, so I've got plenty of time for questions and answers right now. So fire any questions or any comments you've got, and I'll answer I'll answer those. But in the meantime, let me look at over comments that have come in just prior to the session. So first one was Mark. Mark was talking about having difficulty with staff buy-in and commitment. This really comes down to leadership, really bold leadership in my view. So it's the ability to get your people to focus on long-term goals and strategy rather than dealing with the business as usual stuff that comes in, day out. So often if you can focus on just one area that's really important and get your staff involved in it, and then achieve that. If you can achieve that one goal, then you'll find it'll be much easier to get your staff to get buy-in to some of those things in future. Most businesses try to do too much and achieve nothing. And there's really nothing more frustrating for staff than hearing, oh yes, we're doing another product launch, or we're going to do launch another initiative or whatever, only to find that after a wee while it just peters out and then gets replaced with the next new initiative and the next major announcement. It's very frustrating from a staff perspective when they try to get committed towards it, but they know it's only going to last until the next time there's a new announcement. So really this is about bold leadership. It's about committing to a particular initiative and sticking with it and making sure it works. And I think it's really important to actually spend the time to get the commitment from staff. Take your people along with you. There's nothing worse than running roughshod and so quickly through a new initiative that you just leave your people behind. So when you're wanting to figure out what is the one key area that you want to focus on, that's what the summit process can highlight, that one important area that's most important, that's going to drive the growth in your business. Sorry, a bit of a long answer for you, Mark. Michael, finding experienced professional with engineering analysis skills. I'm not sure that I can help you much with this, but you may find that if you break the position down that you've got in mind to all of the individual skills that you're actually looking for, you may find that you can advertise differently, and you might find you're more successful in finding who you actually need. But best of luck with that. Lance, sales resource and strategy. You know, I always remember one of my clients that lacked sales, and they hired some salespeople, some new salespeople. But you know what they found? They didn't actually achieve an increase in sales at all, not to the extent that they were expecting. It was then that they got in contact with me, and I looked through their business using an assessment, and I found out they had a barrier. And it turned out that what they didn't have was a proper sales process or strategy. So they left their salespeople effectively doing their own thing and making it up as they went along. And of course, it could never be as effective as somebody who's got a proper, well-defined sales process and a strategy that process is trying to drive. So my suggestion to you, Lance, would be, if you haven't got a good sales process or strategy, then I think you probably want to go and carry out an assessment and just see whether there isn't something else that's blocking you from making that difference in your business. Edmund, winning over new customers upstream of our business. This is a tough one, Edmund. When you're part of a supply chain, you have very little control over your customers who are upstream of your business. I think you've really got one or two choices. Either you work more closely with your upstream supplier to get those more customers, and that might mean you've got to get inside their business and really work in collaboration with them, or you simply take over their business through merger and acquisition. Because, you know, so often I see businesses like yours that really are held up because of the abilities of the upstream people, the upstream supplier. Linton has a problem with direction. Look, Linton, I often find leaders in this situation, and what I do is I take them through an assessment of their business against the criteria. And I find that this provides them with the 1 or 2 areas they need to do next. So I would suggest no more than 1 or 2 areas. Don't allow them to have half a dozen or 15. I had a company, well, I had an organization once. It wasn't actually a company, but it was an organization. And what they had done, they had a whole bunch of projects. They had a whole projects office, which was looking after improvement projects right across the business. And they came to me and they said, look, we've had this projects office running for 2 years. We haven't had any successful projects completed. And I did an analysis. I said, okay, well, how many projects you got on the books? And they said 53. We did a complete count up. I thought, oh, that's a lot of projects. So I looked at that, and we went through and started to analyse them. And quite a number of those projects, they didn't even have them resourced properly. They didn't, and some of them had conflicting goals. So one project would be saying do this, and another project elsewhere was saying no. Well, we're going to bust that down and we're going to do it differently. So it was just a shocking state of affairs. And there's nothing worse. And I remember reading quite recently somewhere. Somebody said, and it's in a book. Let me just see if I can find it. There was a book that I read, if I can only find the numbers. Here it is. There was Ram Charan. He wrote a book called Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done. And in it he said that if you've got 2 to 3 goals, then you're likely to achieve them. If you've got 4 to 10, you're likely to achieve 1 to 2 of those only. And if you've got 11 or more goals, you're likely to achieve nothing. And I think I would bear that out by what I found from this particular organisation that I was assessing. Sorry, a bit of a long-winded answer, Linton. Ken, what to do next, he says. Well, this is similar to Linton's. You could start with a Summit Readiness Grid. So in a few minutes, you'll know what area of the business you need to look at next. And I think that's the first step to actually applying the the 4-step Summit process. Ken, whenever I'm stumped for what to do next, to be brutally honest, I just pull out the Summit Readiness Grid and I do an analysis and say, well, are we there yet? Are we at the top of our Everest for our niche? And whenever I'm searching, or if I'm with a client and they're saying, well, what do you think I should do next? I always just drag the process out and start again. Dermot has a problem with decision making. And I'm not clear, Dermot, whether you mean that it's not making decisions or changing your mind too often. There's always a clash, I find, in business between dealing with the apparently urgent business as usual and the important strategic work that you do that achieves your goals. If you don't make decisions, then you'll be forever stuck in the business as usual and not achieve your goals. But once you decide on your goals, you can't change your mind too much, or too often you'll find that you won't achieve them either. Hopefully that helps. Greg has a problem with culture. I talked about culture before. Culture, if the culture is wrong in your organization, unfortunately, it comes down to leadership. Now, I did talk on leadership and about leadership culture, and the culture that you need to have is what I call a visionary leader of a successful organization. I'm not sure, Greg, if you attended the webinar that I ran last November on visionary leadership, but email me if you can't find the replay link and I'll send it to you. That was a whole 1-hour webinar that I ran on visionary leadership. So that was how you needed to behave in an organization to be successful. So you might find that's useful. Okay, so moving on now. Oh, and don't forget, you've got 14 days to book your fitness assessment with me and get access to that on the track for that special price. Okay. So